All right. We have joining us here on this week's podcast, Lori Anna Harris. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, Lorianna Harrison. Nice
Sarah
to be
Harrison,
with you.
sorry.
That's okay, Chris. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Nice to be here with you.
Yeah. And so then in full disclaimer, you and I have never met before. So, but I know that we were just catching up on me. You have a very interesting and diverse background in sales and real estate and design. And so I'm excited for today's conversation.
Yes, I'm excited as well.
Going to cover a lot of ground. So maybe if you want to start off, let's introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay.
For our listeners here.
So I'm a native. I'm a local. And I was born at Flagstaff Medical Center. My folks met at Flag High. My sis and I went to Coconino, and then I went to undergrad here at NAU.
Okay.
Got an accounting degree.
Okay.
And it's actually proven very useful in real estate, believe it or not.
You know your numbers, right?
I know my numbers.
Yeah.
I stay in my lane. I do not want to go over to the lending side
I love it.
at all.
Fair
But
enough.
I'm comfortable with a spreadsheet, and I think that's been really useful. So I worked at Arthur Andersen for a couple of years straight out of undergrad, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
But not that exciting for me.
Yeah.
So I got my MBA. I went on leave of absence to go to San Diego State, and that's when the Anderson Enron scandal happened.
Oh.
So I was really lucky to be retooling and going on to, further my education.
Sure.
And I got in with Shea Homes in San Diego during 2004. So that was the boom. And the beginning of it all. And it was an awesome time to get into real estate and builder development.
Yeah. Very cool. And in San Diego, that's a
I was
beautiful
in San
area, and
Diego.
beautiful homes, and And then you're explaining that somehow that led to Costa Rica?
Yeah, so I was there. It was awesome. I loved working in San Diego. And then, the bust happened. So essentially 2007, it's like, what in the world is happening? And I decided in 2008 to take a leave of absence and go to Thailand to get certified to teach English as a foreign language. Okay. And I went in and I was like, okay, this is my plan. And they're like, well, we don't do leave of absence. So, okay, you've resigned. Great. And I was like, what have I done?
Yeah.
And it was really cool. Like, I had a really great relationship with the president, and he's still there in San Diego at Shea Homes. And he's like, no, we definitely want you to stay. And all my friends were like, are you going through like a midlife crisis? Like, isn't it a lot easier to get like a Harley or a tattoo or like something else? And so I slept on it, and I was like, okay, no safety net, right? There's no bridge to turn around on.
Yeah.
I was either going to go forward or stay.
Yeah.
And I decided to go to Thailand.
Okay.
And so I gave a month notice, flew out to Thailand, and there were a whole bunch of us in the class for TEFL or whatever, teaching English as a foreign language, all different ages, and it was such an awesome experience. Having gone and studied abroad in the Netherlands while I was at NAU, it was like, oh wow, the travel bug just kind of gets you again.
Yeah.
And being from a small town, I think once you get out there, either you like it or you're kind of like, this isn't me, and I'm glad I went on a vacation, and that's it. Yeah. But for me, it was just exciting. This is embarrassing, and I know most people are not going to agree with me. I just didn't particularly love the cuisine.
Fair enough.
It was not and the music, it was just so culturally unique and different than what I was used to. Yeah. So I got certified, and then I could have stayed and had a job, but I was like, no, I'm going straight back to real estate.
Yeah.
And so I just kept looking while I was there, and found a job at Coldwell Banker in Costa Rica, in Jaco, in Costa Rica. So I flew there, didn't know anybody, got hired, and I lived in a town that was so small. It had dirt roads and one stoplight.
Okay.
And so I made friends,
Yeah.
and it was awesome to have like an office already set up, where I was at
Yeah,
Coldwell. It was a good brand. Century 21 was directly across the street from
There
us.
you go. Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So I made friends with some gals, and they're called ticas. Because if you're born and raised in Costa Rica and you're a woman, you're a tica.
Okay.
If you're born and raised in Costa Rica and you're a male, you're a tico. So these gals were the same age as me, but they were 5 years old when our town, Jaco, got electricity for the first time.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So, I mean, just things. And they paved the roads while I lived there.
Okay.
So I think that was like in 2008 or 2009, something like that.
Wow. Yeah.
And you're selling real estate. I think it's bienes raíz, something raíces. My Spanish is so bad now that I've left again.
Yeah.
But no, you don't have to have a real estate license. So it's kind of like this like wild, wild west. I had my real estate license in California, but no one cared about that. Like you just needed to be good with people, and it kind of would have helped if I spoke Spanish a little better in hindsight.
Sure.
And then, in hindsight, selling second homes in a third world country during the Great Recession, it just wasn't the best timing.
Sure.
But it was fun.
And how long were you there then?
6 months.
6 months. Mm-hmm. Okay. Very cool. And then after that, did that loop you back home?
No.
Not quite yet.
So, what you do, like, to make money while you're learning a new language, a new area for real estate, I went back to my roots. So I was a bartender and a server for my friend who had a yacht provisioning company there in Herradura, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce it in Spanish, Herradura.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I like it.
So I was at the Los Sueños Marriott Resorts, and we did this show called Millonarios. So they would fly people in a helicopter that would win. So they'd come from San Jose, the capital. They'd fly into Los Sueños Marriott Resorts, and then Jimmy T and myself, he was the chef, and I was the bartender server. Okay. So they'd film all of these shows, and it was awesome. It was so much fun to be like in this environment, and subsequently get to eat the food that wasn't eaten. Like, so I'm actually like getting paid for this. I'm getting food and, drinks afterwards. And then, so I did that for Jimmy. He's still there in Costa Rica, awesome. Jimmy T, shout out to him. And then, I just decided like, okay, what am I doing? Like real estate's not really turning out that well. So I flew to Guatemala. And I went to a private, Spanish school and it was like fully integrated. So I lived with a host family and took Spanish all day long, met people. They were super cool. Antigua is gorgeous. The beautiful, cobblestone streets.
Yeah.
And then all of the facade of these homes. And it's just a magical town. Guatemala's very different and much more pious than Costa Rica. So I get there and Jimmy T calls me and he's like, hey, you want to be a stew on a yacht? And I was like, I don't know what that is. Sounds interesting. Let me know more about it.
Yeah.
So I flew from Guatemala to Fort Lauderdale. And I had my interview to be a stewardess on a yacht. And I was like, okay, cool. Got the gig, flew back. My sis and I had a great time, went to Belize for our first time.
Nice.
Awesome. And then I start my first gig there in Fort Lauderdale. No, up in Maryland somewhere. Yes, I was in Annapolis, Maryland. On the Chesapeake. It was awesome. It was for a gentleman and his 2 daughters, and then there was the captain. The yacht was smaller, so we actually lived in a humongous home that he rented for us. It was a 4-story home in downtown Annapolis, Maryland. Next to Pussers, and that's over a drawbridge. I mean, lots of new environment. I didn't know, first and foremost, this is very important, I did not know that fireflies were real. So being in Maryland, Are you from the East? Or are you from here?
No, I'm West. I'm originally from Utah, so I have also not witnessed fireflies.
You think they're just in storybooks, right? Like, how is this possible?
I would have to probably admit that I have probably only seen them in cartoons and not like a real life movie.
Totally. So. Like, it is just like a fairy tale type thing.
Yeah.
Chris, they exist.
Okay. I'm going to check this out.
Oh my gosh, they're so magical.
That's awesome.
So like I'd be walking to go out and meet them because more or less that job was kind of like being entourage when we were not on the boat. So I'd walk to go downtown and meet them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, here's these mythical like creatures just flying all around, awesome. Dropping their fairy dust. And so that was a cool job. It was like a summer job. And then from there, I knew I loved yachting. So I got completely certified in Bethesda, Maryland. And that's like a hardcore, week-long class.
Okay.
You have to suit up, put on firefighting gear.
Oh, wow.
And you have to fight a fire, and you have to go into small spaces, and you have to be able to manage the fire hose. So, I mean, talk about, like, if you're claustrophobic, you're not doing that.
Not for you. Yeah.
And you've got to be kind of strong. Yeah. So, underneath this, big muscles.
Sure, yeah.
And so I was certified from there, flew back, lived in Fort Lauderdale for a little bit, and then got my next job. And that was as a chief stewardess on a yacht that was being commissioned in Westport, Washington. Okay. So I went from building new homes there with Shea Homes in San Diego to commissioning mega $1 million yachts. So that was up in Westport, Washington. I lived there, got to cruise down after we finished in the yacht yard, down the whole Pacific coast, and it was so gorgeous.
Oh, I bet.
So lots of wildlife, like sea life and like whales and dolphins. And then got down to San Diego. It was awesome to come into like where my home is and or my home at the time and see like the port there. It was, I just love being out on the water. I have really strong sea legs. From that job, I went on to an even bigger yacht, and that one was 150 foot down in St. Thomas. Okay. So I lived in St. Thomas in Charlotte Amalie, and that was incredible. So I was on that one for like about 9 months, and then from there, moved back to Fort Lauderdale, and then moved to the Netherlands 2 additional times. Okay. And commissioned private yachts twice, humongous, gigantic ones, 89 meter, which I don't even remember. Maybe that's close to 300 foot.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for doing the math for me.
So 3, right?
Yeah.
3x.
Yeah. Right around 3. I lived in Rotterdam. Okay. For about 6 months, and then I lived in Alblasserdam the second time, and that last yacht that I commissioned was for Steven Spielberg, and I lived in a little itty-bitty village, and then crossed the Atlantic on Steven Spielberg's yacht.
Wow, super cool. And where you mentioned you were in the Netherlands for an original study abroad type stint, and where was that in Rotterdam as well?
It was up in Groningen, which is like northeast of Amsterdam.
Yep. I lived in the Netherlands for a stint.
Where?
I lived all over the place. My first city was Assen, so just south of Groningen.
Really?
I do speak Dutch fluently.
Ik ben Lori. Ik woon in Groningen.
Dat is geweldig. Aangenaam, Lori.
Een biertje, alsjeblieft.
No, I love it. And so then, Assen, Zwolle, Eindhoven, a stint in Antwerp, Belgium, and then Almere.
No way.
Yeah, so that's fun.
So why did you live in the Netherlands?
It was a service mission for my church.
Oh my gosh.
So, So I speak Dutch, and I would say it was funny because you were talking about the cuisine, and I was thinking because you mentioned the Netherlands, and I'm like, bless the Netherlands for getting all the culture in from all the colonies that they serve, because the Indonesian food's amazing.
Yes.
And they have the African
best
food,
Indian.
Amazing food. But if you've had real Dutch, like boiled potatoes, boiled meat, and boiled cabbage, like not great. Like
it's kind of bland. Yeah. How about bitterballen? Did you ever have that? The little fried?
Yes, oliebollen.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Fried mashed potato, like essentially. Yes.
Yes. No. And the panakukin. So no, I do miss some of the food there.
That's
Absolutely.
incredible. And just so you know, we've exhausted all of the Dutch that I speak.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. No. And I'm sure if I tried to impress you, it would not impress anyone that actually speaks Dutch, because it's been a long time since
It
I've
sounded
spoken
great
with a
to
native
me.
speaker. Thanks. So I love that. And then what? So with all this world travel and experiences, what brought you back to Flagstaff?
So let's see. I wanted to retire from yachting. My friends that I made were the same age as me. One was born and raised in Copenhagen. So we worked on a yacht together, my second to last. And then another friend of mine was from Philly, and Bree, Marianne, and I all worked on that last yacht. And so they retired, they got married, and are still in the industry just from land. And then I was like, well, I'm not going to stay here by myself, you guys go on. So I moved back to Phoenix, got all my stuff, sold my place in San Diego, moved to Phoenix to be closer to like a bunch of friends that lived and that I went to NAU with. And that was great. Started with a title company in Phoenix. And then from there, I acquired a real estate marketing firm. And I owned that for 8.5 years. And it was great. We did print newsletters for agents, like luxury agents. And then my wheelhouse being builder and, that world, we ended up doing a bunch of campaigns for builders. So I got to work with AV Homes for many years. And then I like to say we were the reason they got acquired by Taylor Morrison. So it was all the way through that transition. And then worked with D.R. Horton, worked with Keystone Homes, worked with a myriad of different builders in the Valley. And it was doing digital campaigns, print advertising, lots of digital, social. Worked for a hedge fund out of Newport Beach. And they had multiple like mid-rise communities in Scottsdale and Phoenix. And so I worked on those until we closed them out from like mid. So, I mean, you're doing like a lot of digital campaigns, and that was really fun. Pulled from a lot of different strengths. And then once COVID hit, I had overhead of $17,000 a month. My office, my building, and with my employees there in Scottsdale. And I was like, man, this doesn't seem like the best recipe for like what we're kind of going through right now. So I knew I wanted to move to a small town. I had just come back from Fairhope, Alabama. And I was like, you know what? I think we're going to go digital. I think I'm going to be like working remotely there in the South. And then I got back, and that's when everything started to like literally close down like the next week. Like it was like, okay, you can't go to restaurants, you can't do these sort of things. And I was like, wait, I'm not moving across the country and not know anyone, because that's the excitement of it, just to like kind of have a new adventure. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go. And so I called my friend Missy. She owns Mike and Rhonda's West Side here. We've been friends since we were 9 years old.
Love it.
And I was like, hey, can I move in with you, your mom, your son, and your daughter during COVID, so I don't have to be a single person living on my own? And she was like, yeah, totally. So I just relocated up here, and then I just took my company and we went virtual. And then I ended up selling my company at the end of December 2020. So I owned it for 8.5 years. And then I got into full-time real estate in Flagstaff selling. January of 2021, I sold 47 properties my first year here, full-time in 2021. Sold 71 properties last year. 2022, I was top 5% in the nation. 2022, got client service award in 2021, and this year I'm on pace with GCI of last year.
Awesome. Wow. We just covered a ton of ground.
And the fun thing of getting to Flagstaff is seeing all my friends. Like what I love about being here is I go to the NAU football game on Saturday. Cool. hey, it's everybody you know.
Exactly.
At the farmer's market, it's like it's just always the home field advantage, or just it feels like a big reunion every day.
Yeah, it is actually. So not having grown up here, I've been here 14 years.
Okay, that's a long time.
It's a long time, yeah. And
did you come for university?
My wife was at the university.
Okay.
Yep. So I followed her. So it was a good move, Abby. As far as though it blew me away that the community aspect. There's so many different things that are attractive on just the outset. I have a big, so this is my mountain biker mustache. I don't always wear this. I have a race coming up this weekend. I figure,
Do you have jorts as well?
Jorts?
Yeah. Apparently they're jean shorts, and I learned about it down at Absolute Bikes.
Jorts. I have not, they are on the list to acquire, but I do not own a pair of jorts. So like the mustache and jorts, like, again,
it kind of goes together,
right?
It
does. It could. Yes. My wife would probably kick me out. Like, so this is barely, barely. Now it's a joke that I've started of saying I'm keeping this until the rates come down. But yeah,
that's
unless
funny.
the Fed has some good news to next week, it's probably, or tomorrow, it's probably coming off sooner. Wife's not doing a ticket that long, but where'd I go with that? Is the community, right? Is that you don't realize, I was talking with one of my good friends down in Mesa, in the lending business, and she was like, the closest coffee shop to my house is a Starbucks, and I can go in and know no one. And I'm like, I can walk in all these different coffee shops. I know the owners. We know, you're going to run into people, and have these conversations. And it's, and it's not, but it's a big, small community, right? In that sense of like, it's just, I don't know. I'm super into Flagstaff.
Yeah. I mean, whoever sang that Big Little Town, it is that. You go over to Macy's, you're going to see Tim Macy, you're going to bump into a bunch of people, and that's what's gorgeous. And then it's so fun on the weekends because here come all of these fresh new ideas, tourists or people that own second homes that are escaping the heat. And it's like, it is a breath of fresh air. Exactly. All of it is.
Yeah. When I love that you've had this massive life experience that, as with travel and different cultures, and that, roads lead back to the community.
Like least. The Alchemist, right?
Yeah.
It's in your backyard.
Exactly. Well, and before, because I have all sorts of different real estate questions, but we have a fun little...
is it a quiz? Am I going to take a test right now?
No, you're
that's
not.
What I feel like
we like to do a little social media deep dive on guests that we do not previously know. So, because I fit this segues right before we segue into real estate. This fits really well. So I have a couple of pictures. I'd like you to tell us what was going on in these pictures.
Oh, okay. So I was getting ready to go speak at the U.S. Embassy in Egypt.
Your experiences are blowing me away right now. Okay.
And I was so excited. So one of my friends from high school, Linnell, she married Mark, and he's in the Secret Service or something like that, because I knew they were in Egypt, so it can't be that secretive. Yeah. But they somehow it came up, and they were part of the U.S. Embassy there, and they were looking for people to talk about career, do deep dives on like career and just different kinds of ways to be better, to self-help books, that sort of thing. Okay. So I was going there as well as to Turkey to go speak. One of my friends from grad school, they have like this really great collective of like business individuals in Turkey. So I was going to kind of talk on the same lines, but it's essentially the exploration of 16personalities.com. And it's just like the coolest thing. And like, what are we better like adapted for? Okay. And I don't think I never believed in like Myers-Briggs when I was younger, and like the DISC test and those kinds of things never felt very like authentic and like appropriate to me. Yeah. So when I did the 16 personalities, I learned about that from a girl that I was making. We were volunteering making masks during COVID. Okay. Yeah. And she told me about it. And that is literally why I have this picture of me going to Egypt. Now, COVID happened, so I did get a refund on my flight, and it was really fun. I got to be on Zoom with all of the people at the U.S. Embassy, Egypt.
Gotcha. Okay. I love it.
Super bummer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's dealing
not
with the
as
times.
exciting. Yeah.
So you're in the hot seat on this one, though. So that's definitely
what did I do? Oh, yeah. So I absolutely love being in a Cessna. Like,
Okay.
I feel like a dog with my head out the window, like a truck or something.
Yeah.
So I got like when I lived in Scottsdale, I would go just, get a summer place wherever just to get the heck out of town for a month or two. And that was the summer that I spent in Bisbee.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I'd take a private Cessna from Bisbee up to, the airport in Scottsdale so that I could get to work when I needed to go to meetings in person.
Okay. Very cool. I love it. And then we got one more here.
Oh, yeah. That's my friend Missy that I mentioned, Mike Miranda's, and her daughter Erin, who went to NAU, go Jacks, and myself, and we were up there at Snow Bowl, just like literally enjoying. And this was,
beautiful.
I think, July of 2020. So, that was on my birthday. Huh. Cool.
There you go.
Okay, I guess we were
And you
celebrating
your
during
birthday?
COVID.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's super, super cool. And not to, it's tough context in the sense of obviously there was a lot of hurt and harm during those years. But I do love, we lived, and I'm glad to say that you lived, and in the sense of like, so going back to the mountain biking, not that it's all I eat, sleep, and breathe, but
I'm close to it.
I have lots of hobbies, but that's the one right now. So are you a mountain biker then? You're going to Absolute?
So
getting into it?
I've got an e-bike, so would that qualify me?
My wife has an e-bike, so she would say yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Hallows.
Yeah. So Abby would be part of that company, but I've been so ever since I moved here, and I got into that because that was kind of the thing to do here, and then we'd be popping down to Sedona and just eating that up, like loving the diversity of both Flagstaff and Sedona mountain biking, but biking down when Sedona was like everything was shut down and there was no one on the trails was like a magical, unique experience I'll never forget.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, because it's always so tourist based, right? So there's so much people on the trails. It's awesome. We all share, but when you can just be down there and it's quiet, it's serene. It's like the middle of the day. It was beautiful.
Very tranquil and peaceful.
Yeah. So I love that you lived there too, or lived it up. So, well, and so talk to me about, so from yachts and everything to that now real estate, it seems like you just get into it and dig in deep and are all about it. And so I know, and you and I connected because I saw that you write for the Flagstaff Business News, which we've started to do now as well. Love Bonnie. I've known Bonnie for some years.
Yes.
And
good job.
Hey, thank you. We try. I nerd out. I nerd out on everything. And so I love talking to other people that really dig in deep as well. And so, yeah, but you also have some different takes that I appreciate in the sense of, like, you were telling me that you recently remodeled your own home, and that was on the symphony. What they call it, the symphony tour,
Flagstaff Symphony Orchestra home tour.
Yeah. How often do they do that? I didn't even know that existed.
They just started it back up. It's super exciting.
Yeah.
So this year was the first year that they'd done it since 2019.
Okay.
And my grandparents owned Flagstaff Music Center downtown. So my dad was like, oh, yeah, I remember when they used to do that years ago. So this was like the new grand debut of it. Yeah. And it was so much fun. I was on like the chair together with Stephanie Stallings, the executive director of the Flagstaff Symphony Orchestra, and 3 other lovely ladies. And so we got homes to be on the tour, and then we had, around 100, almost 200 people going through.
Yeah.
And I think that was like August 20th. And it was amazing. It was so much fun.
It sounded awesome. I have no idea why I didn't hear about it earlier. I need to be better in the loop on this, because you had people from the orchestra playing in these homes. How many homes were on tour then?
There were 6 homes on tour.
Okay.
And people, it was self-guided. So they essentially QR coded, and then they could go to whichever homes they wanted on the tour. Yeah. It was so neat. Like, I loved seeing who came into my home, but it was scary. Like, honestly, I didn't realize how daunting it would be to open up my own home to showcase my craft of interior design and something that I love to do. So I was just like really nervous, and then I'd get really excited about it. And then the day of, there were a few tears in the morning beforehand, just rushing around trying to get everything done. It's like, the appetizers. And, I wanted to have, I had mimosas for people and I had appetizers and I just really played the hostess. Yeah. So I did kind of sandbag it. I invited all of my pickleball friends to come.
You have to, right?
First thing in the morning. I told Stephanie, I was like, I'm sorry, these are non-ticket paying people, but they're like, helping build up my confidence.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. There were at least 50 people in my home, like right at the start at 11 a.m. when it went off. Yeah. And it was so much fun to play host, answer questions about the remodel that I did on my home. And it's the second remodel that I've done here in Flagstaff for myself.
Okay, yeah.
Now, multiple remodels that I've done for clients, though I don't do client remodels at all anymore.
Yeah, okay. No, I love it, and I'm gonna blame it on our little stint in Europe. You've gone a lot of other places that I have not gone, but I too find that it's the design aspect is I get super into it. I've gotten in a lot of trouble recently
by Abby, right? Is that what it is?
No, just in trouble. No, in the sense that we finished. We did a 10-month remodel on an Airbnb.
Nice.
After we had just remodeled our own, and so
it's addicting.
Yes, it is so addicting.
Did you do the before and after photos?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are we looking at those on screen right now?
No. You and I can cue into those later.
Okay, cool.
So no, I get really into because it's it's exciting, and as your brain starts to work that way, and like when we were walking through before we bought the place, and just thinking like, when people have certain visions, like I don't really like this, right? No, that's not going to be here anymore, and this is how this is going to look, and this is like I.
So
love
what did you do?
aspect.
Like, tell me about the Airbnb, or tell me about your house. Like, I love geeking out on this stuff.
Yeah. So it was and that's so my little. Not that this is about me on the podcast, but as we're getting to know each other and keeping it fair here, so we kind of moved in phases of like so when market was shifting. So we bought our very, very first home in 2010.
Okay.
Right? We decided to stay here in Flagstaff. We decided to buy our first little townhome in Boulder
Timing.
Point.
Great timing.
The last decade has been, incredible. So we're sitting here. I do monthly meeting with a big real estate group, and we're with my realtor partners and community, and we were talking and just sharing all this data in 2012 of like lowest rates, lowest prices. This is it. And I look at my wife and I go home after presenting this. I was like, I have to drink the Kool-Aid, right? And like, we got to move, turn this into rental. We got to move. And we ended up, and like our neighborhood down in Ponderosa Trails was vacant lots. No one was moving in. It was so slow. We were the only person talking to the builder at the time. Like, it was just different markets. And I just share that with people, just knowing like, I'm not brilliant. It was just like what we walked into, right?
That's incredible.
And so we built, and then we had a little, like within the first 2 years, a little insurance claim on some things that I was like, and I'm still young and dumb, but I was very young and dumb at the time, where I was like, in my first situation of that, and I was like, oh wait, I can take the money and just do this myself. And I was like, great. We didn't really like some of the finishes that were there, and I kept telling my wife, this is eventually going to be a rental, so we don't want to touch anything. And then so we ended up renovating that home to the extent that we did floors. Okay. Did some accent walls, redid some bathrooms. Okay. Like did some I get into like the creative. Like doing like a big slab vessel sink in the half bath, and the little pedestal sink. Those drive me nuts. Okay.
Yes. The little oval that's like this big, and then you've got an oval mirror above it.
If you ever have, especially in those homes, it's not like we have large guest amenities or anything. So if you ever have someone staying over or hanging out in the sofa bed in the office that we had, like they don't have anywhere for their toothbrush or anything, and so it's like now it has like a decent.
It's more ergonomic.
Yeah, and usable. So doing that stuff, and then adding, and I got way into the smart home stuff. And at the time, and I balanced that out a little bit, but yeah, just like smart lighting. And, we did then we actually did, especially since we had the perspective of turning into rental, we did wood plank tile.
Good.
So wood plank tile basically throughout to take away the 12-inch gray tiles. That was very
builder
much
standard.
Well, and that like nothing like a timestamp on your home, right?
Totally. Yeah, that's not classic.
Because that's how you did like a wood. You did a vinyl,
LVT.
Yeah, beautiful, and that product has come a long way.
Oh, I recommend it to all clients.
Yeah.
It's great for up here because it's snow, monsoon proof.
Oh, exactly.
Dog proof.
Yeah.
But good job.
Anyway, so we did a lot on that, and then we did a move up because baby number 4 was pushing the seams of the house, and we're 4 now.
Yes.
And so we decided, let's try and find the forever home, and so we did, and then did a full interior remodel. I like to though. I like there.
And
Is
I
it
love how
Michael?
you just glaze over like 4 kids. Wow. What?
Yeah. No, so a lot of lives
That's amazing.
happening. Yeah. You're traveling the world on yachts, and we were
Bringing
popping
little
out kids.
people into the world.
So but I think, is it Michelangelo? I'm going to have to look this up, that said when he looks at a piece of marble, he wants to know what it wants to be. Right. And I love that design. I think it's Michelangelo that, and I'm probably slaughtering the exact phrase, but I love that romanticism of saying like, I don't go into a home. And so when we did, especially our last one, of saying, oh, we want to make it completely different of what we want. It's like, no, this 1990s home was beautiful, was well thought in a lot of ways. We just wanted to make it our own,
it's more
modernize
functional.
the touches. I'll show you some pictures here later, but yeah. So, and getting the tones, and you really realize, again, when I get excited about this stuff is like, you're in this space all day long, and how you feel in your space really impacts then what you go out and do.
All of life.
Yeah.
King in his castle.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
So, yeah.
And you're right. The house has to speak. Like, you cannot take an exterior that's a total, like, craftsman style and then go extremely modern on the inside. It doesn't flow. So you have to listen to kind of the architecture and the bones of the home and modify those, but not ignore them.
Yeah. And so things like, for a perfect example, especially then we also, we live within budget constraints, as everyone does.
Everybody.
Whether you're buying multi-million-dollar yachts, there's someone else is going to have an extra helicopter pad than you.
Yeah,
you
right.
know?
That's exactly it. Yes.
And so you have, so we did, like, a lot of what we did in our places, we kept the cabinets mostly throughout, and we did a lot of vessel sinks on top because it was older cabinets that were lower. And so when you put that vessel sink on top,
it makes it almost an executive height.
Yeah. So like little things like that where you're creative.
Adding hardware, those kinds of things make it look so different.
Yeah. So no, and so it's just So we definitely, and then we'll have to, the Airbnb was a whole nother thing. An older house, so we kept going deeper and older each time. And then when you're in this 1970s home, digging real deep, and you find everything.
You do. Oh, that is correct. The one that I'm in now, 1976. The one I've got in escrow that's closing tomorrow, 1970.
Yeah.
It's what you do because it's more exciting and more fun to see the transition, I think.
Yeah. And now this is total left
Or
field.
you get crazier.
But that's where I've created the statement of there are only 2 kinds of mice in your house, the kind you know about and the kind you don't.
Plenty of ones
we live in the
don't
forest.
know
You know what
about
I'm saying? It's
in
like
the old homes.
Exactly. So it's an interesting world
I'm
out
pulling
there
out a stove in the 1970s one, and there is already dinner at the bottom in the pullout, and you could just see their little heads down there. That's it. Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah.
Remediation, and it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, you get tough. You get kind of tough when you deal with, things are, you build some callous to it, which kind of, having gone through that experience, I do, and maybe tell me how you feel about this. Like, I find I have to ground myself a little bit when talking with, especially like first-time home buyers and folks that are just like really, they're struggling with current market conditions and with situations, and they want that perfect house. I totally empathize with that. I see that day by day, but I also, just like we're talking about, that callous you kind of have to build up is to be able to say, like, you got to kind of make your own luck.
You do. And so when you look at a place, I love working with first-time home buyers. I just met with one last week, and it was just so fun. And she said, are we at the right pace with our peers? And, we've gone on to like further education. So they both each now have 2 bachelor's degrees, and they both have just gotten through that.
Wow.
And they're like, we're feeling like behind our peers. And I said, don't you worry at all. We do make our own luck. So it was something along those lines, because I said, we can get you into your first place. We can make modifications to it. I've got a Rolodex of everybody that I work with and that I all of my clients at every single budget want to make changes to a home, but a coat of paint goes a long ways in totally transforming a home into what you want it to be, or wallpaper, or design, little aesthetics, the new light fixtures. That stuff goes a long ways into making it feel like this, it is a dream home.
Yeah. And knowing that it's effort, right? And it's trade-offs, and having those honest conversations.
There's compromise involved.
Absolutely.
But
and
it's attainable. It is attainable.
Exactly. And getting that foot in the door, I think is, and I'm not trying to like sell everyone on this, but I really feel this is from a marketing standpoint. So here, you can help me figure out how to market this, Lori, and tell me if you feel otherwise. But one of the things that so again, when I've gathered a lot of data, and I think through, on these big cycles of things, because people look very emotionally to the market. Most people, they have no education in this, right? This was not taught in schools. This was not.
It wasn't taught in school. Neither was writing a checkbook back when I was in school. And it's like, here's these big instruments that you don't know how to use or what to do.
And culturally too, just like you were saying, from different culture standpoints, Americans are not very accustomed to markets. We're accustomed to like stores models, all right? If you walk into Best Buy, there's going to be 50 different things to choose from, and you will probably get a discount. So when you have to go to an open market where you don't even know if what you want exists or not, much less what other people feel they would pay for that, and then how you strategize through that is completely foreign.
Absolutely. And there is a lot of strategy involved.
Oh, way more. Well, and the hard part is, and I know I've shared this one a lot here on the podcast before, but, and it's old data, but I love this one. Like it was like 2010, 2012 NAR study of the most, we'll ask you here. So the biggest threat to the realtor profession. Do you have a guess on what that is? The number one threat to the realtor profession as of the NAR, like 2012 study.
Well, gosh, back then that was the bottom of the market. I mean, good grief. I guess it definitely wouldn't be AI taking over your job.
A lot of people go to online first, like online models and
which
things.
I think is a good thing. Hey, look at it, but you don't get the, knowledge behind it. I don't know. What was it?
Poor and disqualified and part-time agents.
Interesting.
So you look at just like what you're saying, is there's so much skill involved in that, but a lot of people discount that because the majority of people that they know that have worked with an agent do not assign the proper value, because there's a lot of agents out there, realtors, that really aren't honing in their craft, right?
Well, they're doing it like 4 to 6 transactions a year. And so I've been in those transactions with that person and I just coach them through. I'm like, hey, we've got the Benzer. It's 10 days. Did you, get the inspection? Did you let them know it's time to release the appraisal? Go ahead. There's all these parts and pieces. And I've even been in the room with the buyer on my listing and that agent. There was one specifically right around the $1 million mark. And I just took the whole situation under my wing as though I was their salesperson. And I was like, did you see the amenities? Did you go over to Continental Country Club and see and Bear Paw and all of these things? And so everybody gets a hand up at sometimes.
Exactly.
So I love doing that and like helping that other person. Absolutely. But if it's on a every time basis, it's exhausting because you're like, wait a second, you got to hold up your end of like what we're doing here.
Yeah. Well, you realize, and it's, it goes without saying, I'm sure for you, but to help our listeners understand that if you are in the selling position, you have the fiduciary responsibility to represent all of the needs of the sellers. I unfortunately see it on my side of things, and I am not a licensed realtor, but when I see that the buyer's agent is totally missing the boat, it's unfortunately not our, I can do as much as I can within my realm, but it's not like a listing agent's going to give them a free handout of like, you just totally missed this date and now it
doesn't have to happen. Yeah. None of the repairs do. We're moving forward to close of escrow.
Oh, it's so if anything from this conversation, it just is so important, I think, for people to realize you are interviewing someone for a job, right?
Every single time.
I've doubled down. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, tell me.
No, I was going to say I've doubled down on that conversation more so in the last 3 years of my career. So I've been doing lending for 15 years, and I've been emphasizing that more and more heavily to my clients because I hate seeing people lose.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I see two people that are equally qualified, or I've even seen one that's lesser qualified, but because they're working with the right people, they are now homeowners, while the other one is disenfranchised with entire markets and thinking to move out of Flagstaff.
Oh, yeah. And that absolutely happens. I was going to say, typically when I go and meet with a seller, I am one of 4. Typically.
Okay, yeah.
And so I just always stress everything that's going to take place in the process. And a lot of what we're talking about with interior design, you have to get the home prepped. Everybody, 98% of people are starting their search on Zillow or Trulia or Realtor or Redfin. And the reality is that's cool. Like, it's kind of neat because I sell a ton of second homes. And I love my first time home buyers, but guess what? Those folks, no matter who they are, before I go and we look at homes, they've looked at the entire home 17 times, flipping through Zillow to see what it is. They know the history on the home. They know all of these things. And if we haven't done our job of, hey, here's my handyman, here's my painter, here's my carpet stretcher, and I'm going to do the staging for you to get it all prepped. We are missing the mark. And I get embarrassed when I show homes where the TLC hasn't been done on the front end, and you get in there and you just feel like you owe a blanket apology to your buyers, even though it wasn't your listing, because it makes for that bad experience where, oh, this is it that's in my price range. Conversely, when you take them to the next one and it's great and they have done the deck paint, because we had a lot of snow last winter. And so you need to have those things, sandblasted or whatever, sanded and then painted. And then you do that fresh paint on the inside, or just clean and declutter. I mean, the simple things. And then you take them in and it's like, oh my gosh, look at this home. I could picture myself living here. That's exciting. So that expertise goes from all the way from that beginning stage all the way to the end to close of escrow, because there's multiple times for negotiation throughout the transaction.
I think a lot of sellers especially need to hear that. And buyers could do well with taking it with a grain of salt. In that, it reminds me of that, me and the kids love to watch the cooking shows. So a lot of Gordon Ramsay goes on at our house, and he always says you eat with your eyes, right? And I think that a lot of people can overcome square footage, location, or even maybe bedroom, bathroom count if they love how the home looks and they could get how they could feel in it.
Absolutely. I like that, relating it to food and taking it outside of like what we do every single day. You eat with your eyes. What was the presentation like? Did the server just put their thumb at the top of the rim of your glass or your food as they set it down?
I was also in the food and beverage industry as well. So like when you realize like touches help. And I think that our industry, especially just with, and I heard it called a poison pill that the Fed dropped with 2% rates. They honestly dropped a poison pill, and it's great. I love it for all you folks that have rates in the twos. I myself am in that category, luckily, and it's just a matter of saying, though, it was really overall not healthy for our markets, and people just buying up without really, it's just this frenzy of activity to where it's, especially right now in the next 6 months, I think sellers need to be more cognizant than ever that it is purely that you are having to Gordon Ramsay present your house.
Absolutely.
Make sure that steak looks cooked perfectly.
Yes.
And because you're not going to get many shots. Yeah.
You get one shot to come out of the gate. And that is so true. And in our industry, like on the Airbnb side, sometimes it's called eye candy, right? All of the accessories and making everything feel so, because it's a feeling. That's why model homes, and I'm so thankful for that time at Shea Homes. It is it's a buyer experience. Now that goes for every single industry that there is out there. Absolutely. And what are we doing to make that best for our buyers, first-time home buyers, even if it's a first move up or a second move up, like you and your family getting into your forever home. You still want to have that great experience when you walk into a place, unless that person is saying, for sure, I want a fixer-upper, and then the price hopefully should kind of reflect a little bit of that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's kind of my, with your marketing skills, you can help me figure out how to lock that in, where I really do believe right now, looking at all the data, I mean, we do believe rates rates are going to come down, right? We understand that inflation is not forever.
Mm-hmm.
We look at all the trending of how rates react to the 10-year treasury, how rates react to inflation. The road is down. It's just a matter of how much and when.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had to place a bet to say that if a client's goal was to buy the lowest price in Flagstaff, it's in the next 6 months and probably never again is my bet. What do you think of that?
I am not a betting gal.
Yeah.
I'm always like, I'll bet you $1.
Yeah. No, and so I should say,
but I like
clients make your own decisions and choices. But if I had to say, hey, if I was spending my own money and thinking I'd get a lower price than will ever exist in the future, I think it's in the next 6 months.
So I think that is probably accurate, and I'll tell you why. Dr. Lawrence Yun is the chief economist for NAR, National Association of Realtors, and he spoke here in Flagstaff. I think it was in August, and I was like, oh my gosh, we get to hear him talk about our market and talk about geeking out on numbers. So he essentially said, and he's he is in DC. He like part of his job is lobbying and all of those kinds of things. So, or the people around him. And he said interest rates are going to go down, and the impact that's going to happen are the people that were in those 2%, 3%, let's even say 4% loans are going to finally feel like they can get out from those homes.
Sure.
And so we'll have those coming on market, but then all of the people that have been holding back, you know how they used to say shadow inventory during the recession, but the shadow buyer that's kind of like, gosh, what the heck? I'm not sure that I can do this at 7.25% or 7.5%. All of a sudden, you're going to have a different kind of excitement in the market. So those people that were locked in and either need to go bigger in their house or smaller, right? They're going to right size,
state or take the job,
life, because they got called back into work at Amazon in person or Facebook back in person. All of these different shifts are taking place. I do actually think that the market is going to go hotter and faster. So I just said it in a much longer way. And I guess I am agreeing with your with your bet.
Well, and that's where we've said Freddie Mac did a study about 2.5 million people will be entering the market for every 1% we see rates dip.
Wow.
From shadow buyer. They quantified it of like 2.5 to 3 million per percent in interest rate can no longer economically afford. So each 1% dip that we go is about 2.5 million to 3 million people.
That's incredible.
Nationally. So you're saying, okay, if we get back to the fives, because all indications lead to just with a normal, like if we don't have all the crazy inflation and everything going on here, that we would see, we should see somewhere in the fives if it was a normal market today. And so if we were in the fives at 2% lower than current, you want to compete with 5 to 6 million more people. I don't see prices coming down in Flagstaff
and historically, so I'll tell you the numbers geeky side. I have this little spreadsheet that I've got right here is year over year and month over month since April of 1999, which is
send it to us and we'll put it on.
Okay, which is as far back as our MLS goes, and I have hand pulled all of this data. And that's what I use for writing for Flagstaff Business News. But what it allows me to see are the trends. And so right now, because I pull full month data, so for single family home in Flagstaff, that excludes Belmont. Okay, so it's truly the Flagstaff zip codes. Our data in August of 2023 was $390 a square foot. Okay. Last year, when everyone's like, oh my gosh, is this ever going to stop? And we've got multiple people bidding on the same home and we're looking at 12 to 20 offers. Our price per square foot last August was $389, $1 less than what it is right now. Now, last month, our data, so that would be July, because we're in September. Our data in July.
Or August, you mean? Is it August or July?
Well, August is what I was telling you because I pull full month, so I don't have September. But for last month, in July, our price per square foot was $415 a square foot for a single family detached home. Wow. It was the highest the month prior in June. That is the highest it's ever been at $419 a square foot for the average single family home. Now it's back down to $390, and at $390, it's still $1 more per square foot than it was last year this time. This is just continuing on. Now we have more inventory. We do. I looked at the numbers this morning. I look at the numbers every single day. We have more homes. Now, sometimes pricing has to shift a little bit because we're pulling comps as agents, and our comps are based off of averages and home prices essentially 6 months ago, right?
Yeah.
So that can kind of skew sometimes where the homes are. And then it still skews, meaning we're doing price reductions. And people are seeing price reductions out there. Yeah. That's taking place in Flagstaff and our surrounding areas. And then at the exact same time, I put one on the market, had to have been 3 weeks ago. Cash offer, townhome in Continental Country Club, listed at where the comps wanted it to be, and it went multiple offer over 30,000 over list. This was 3 weeks ago. And then I had one in April of this year, which it closed in May, and I had 16 offers on one home, and I put the price where the comp said it could be. Yeah. So for every single one where it is normal, we are doing some shifting with pricing because there is no way to completely gauge where exactly those numbers are supposed to be. It's buyer demand. Hey, do I want a house out here? And it's the interest rates. So it's two things where you're like trying to gun to get that exact precise button on the number. And then it can be completely blown away at times with just a cash offer. Just completely obliterated.
And I think it's important to overstate. When I say that, and I say it very carefully, like we saw I believe as of August, the list to sell ratio was like, back in like June, July, it had gone up again. So it was like 95% heading into the fall or through the fall last year. And then into the spring, summer, we saw it get closer to 100%, which you kind of see on both sides of things. Like agents are getting smarter on where they're pricing, whereas the buyers then meeting that fairly. So that's a pretty even market. And then we with seeing the rates do this double spike that we've now seen, or double peak here, that we saw it drop down to 94.7% again. And so I say it with a grain of salt in that, no, don't look for this 50%, like massive, like I'm not predicting a crash over the next 6 months. It's a matter of saying seasonality has come back.
Yes.
These stiff rates are going to hang out for just a hot minute longer. We'll find out more tomorrow from the Fed. And then it's a matter of like, you'll probably have more opportunity from like, especially for those people that hate markets and hate competing, right? To say you could be that only deal. Like depending on the house right now, that's just sitting, and it's a lot of them probably sitting for no good reason, just because market's just scared. And it doesn't mean the foundation's bad or the roof is bad or there's terrible repairs. It's just a matter of, and I think I'm so excited to see what deals are had right now, because I think there's so much opportunity for a buyer to actually come in, sees market opportunity, and kind of a normal-ish, as normal as we might see for a while.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I had a client, and we've got their home listed, and she's like, what's going on? And I said, this is normal. Yeah. I said, I pulled all the days on market for our particular area. And I said, hey, look at, we're low on days on market. We're right in the middle on price. So this is the perfect opportunity for buyers to come in there and really seize that moment and get in and know that down the road that they can refi.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the whole thing. As long as you can handle where you're at and you are comfortable with it. Because I treat people like they're my family. And so I'll get this sixth sense about homes, about deals, about everything. And I'm like, one time there was one, we made an offer in 2021. Multiple offer situation. Home on the golf course. There's like essentially no comps for it because it was like the first one that had come up in the season. And I got like sick to my stomach because we kept going so high and there were escalation clauses and I could feel that like energy from my clients. And I was just getting nervous and I lost sleep about it. They are friends of mine still to this day, and I've sold them multiple other homes, but I was just really worried. So ended up that they were like, okay, we're not going to do this. And someone else took that escalation clause to that next level. And I took them out in a blizzard. Oh, yeah, because it was during snow season. I took them out in a blizzard to go look at another home, and I just didn't feel that for them. I knew that the other neighborhood was where they wanted to be. And I was like, you guys, I've got a pocket listing. I've got someone who wants to sell in about 6 months from now, getting ready to retire from NAH. And you're going to have to look past quite a few things because it is not camera ready. It's the opposite of camera ready. Yeah. And there's lifetime of treasures in there. And so I took them over there and they got tears in their eyes. They could see past all of the piles. They could see past everything. And I got them a home for, let's just say, approximately $200,000 less than the other one where my stomach got in knots that they were going to bid up to in the escalation clause. And they got to completely redo that home. The seller knew that she was locked in with these great buyers. She got a lease back during that time. And their home is out of this world now, and they still say they pinch themselves about that home. So I've helped them buy other various properties, but because of being aware of, I never want someone ever, ever, ever to be house poor, and it takes as long as it takes. I tell every single client that I work with, there's one buyer for one home. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. That's on the listing side. And on the buy side, I said, this is a process. What you say you want and where we start off versus where we end up, I don't know if it's going to be the same thing, but I guarantee you we are going to find your dream home. And that's the fun part about this entire process.
Absolutely. Well, and optimism. Right now, optimism is winning. And I think that those folks that are going to pick themselves up off the couch and say, yep, we want to be homeowners or home investors or build wealth in real estate. I'm excited about the next 6 months. I really am. And it's, as soon as everyone else gets excited about it, then you're in line, right?
Yeah, and you're right. With the drop in the seasonality, slowly starting to happen, you're right. Q4 and Q1 are really positioned. And I do tell people, I think those are great months to buy because you have to go out in the snow. Those people that were this year of Q1, January, February, March, going out in 3 foot of snow, you wanted to buy a house. And people that were listing in Q1 of this year, they wanted to sell their house because we had to shovel out a lot and de-ice to get it even get listing photos.
Yeah, I love that. You got to want it. Mm-hmm. Well, Laura, this has been awesome. We've already taken up enough of your time, so we'll have to probably do this again. But any final words that you have?
Just make sure, I think for buyers and sellers, work with someone who's passionate.
Absolutely.
Work with someone who's passionate about what they do and that really loves it. And that's going to make a huge difference. I've helped my parents sell a bunch of homes. This is what I've known. My grandparents did this as well. This has been my life. And my mom goes, gosh, Lori, well, thanks for being like a cheerleader during this whole process of the roller coaster. And my parents do this a lot. And I said, well, this is what I do every day, Mom. I'm a cheerleader for all of my clients. And so I would say that I would urge people to find who they jive with, whoever it is, where they've got good communication and look for that good fit. Yeah, your friends, brothers, cousins, uncles, sisters, whatever that just got their license. Don't feel the guilt of giving someone their first shot, right? Give it expert and find a good fit. Love it. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on. Thanks for having me, Chris. Yep. Bye-bye.